This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And Doc, this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres is brought to you by DC Sports at beautiful Lakeside Mall in Sterling Heights. You can find out much more about DC Sports on Twitter at DC Sports Detroit. And make sure to also check out DC Sports at its fine website of DetroitCitySports.com.
I was trying to get it out here. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get fly. I got 6 jobs. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. I don't get tired. Get fly. I got 6 jobs.
And we are still not tired on this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres. I am your host, Vito Geronimo Ch, alongside my usual sidekick and broadcast partner and fun. That is a Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles McElroon. John, how are you doing?
Everyone, I hope you had a great 4th of July weekend. We're recording this prior to the holiday, but I'm hoping that the weather was nice, hoping you enjoyed a lot of good food, a lot of good fireworks, some time off. For me personally, I took Thursday and Friday off. As you're downloading this, back to work Saturday, and I hope everybody enjoyed the time. It's a great time of year. Finally, Vito, a nice stretch of weather that we had prior to this recording. Last week was unbelievable in terms of the weather. I got a chance to cover the Rocket Mortgage Classic. I'll share some stories from that. And then what else we got for this week's Two Bad Hombres?
Well, about all the access you got for the Rocket Mortgage Classic, also about me going to Lake Wixom, talk about that a little bit, my trip, what you have going on for the 4th of July as well, and maybe a little note about how about Kevin Dietz from WDIV being let go, actually, by the station. How about that one, Doc?
Yeah, we'll talk about zero-tolerance policies and why they just don't work, especially when you look at a scenario in which a guy that's been with you for 26 years, an investigative reporter, somebody that's been a staple of your organization. We'll talk about that. I do think that as the news broke earlier in the week, Monday, Tuesday, people are kind of diving into it. And even a notable media member, Terry Foster, weighed in a little bit talking about it. So we'll talk about that in the second half of the podcast. But I do want to start with the fact that the Detroit Rocket Mortgage Classic was a success. I had a chance Monday to Sunday. I was there every single day, and my experiences were excellent. I did obviously have to talk to the PR staff there with the PGA Tour and with BZA in terms of public relations and what I was actually going to do. And so I made my case, and that's how it got started was, okay, I wanted to cover the event. It was a marquee event. I had a feeling I'm semi-knowledgeable in golf. I can put together some coverage. I have an idea of competition. I've watched Masters. I've watched PGA Tour golf on some Sundays, and especially coming off of a great U.S. Open at Pebble Beach and Gary Woodland winning it, I was involved. I watched all 18 holes of the final round. I was really into it, and I'm like, okay, I think there's an opportunity if I reach out and tell the staff there what I can do. I could probably do some decent coverage. And so it was approved. I was very thrilled. The interesting aspect of the entire working relationship was I had to prove my merit because of an event like that. It's their first year, so the PR staffs and the PGA Tour, they're getting to know all the media in town. Like, okay, there's a lot of websites, there's a lot of sports entities that are trying to cover sports. And so I had to prove what I was going to do and what I could basically bring to the table in terms of coverage. And so I said, I can do everything. Photos, audio, video. I want to do whatever is allowable is my response. And here's what I can bring to the table. And so once the agreement was met, I was credentialed. That first Monday, obviously, I got there super early. Practice days are filled with basically the players coming in. They're not scheduled. It's just you can go to the range, you can go to the course. The players can do whatever they want. From sun up to sundown, the players can get into their work and practice. So what I did was my stance was I've never been to the golf course specifically. Obviously, you and I toured it. And obviously, you and I went to Media Day. We saw a certain portion of the event. But in terms of walking the course, my first time there, I didn't know where the media center was. So I get there at 7 a.m. and they're like, it's in a tennis courts. I'm like, okay. I ask a lot of volunteers, where are the tennis courts? And nobody really knew because it was a lot of people's first time there too as well. So I'm like, oh boy. So within the first 20 minutes, I'm walking around. I can't find the media center. And I finally find a staffer and he's like, okay, I'm going to take you there. And the media center was built and everything, but there were no signs. So I had walked past it early on. But that's the whole purpose. I knew it was going to happen because I've never been there before. And I know obviously a lot of people don't know exactly what's going on. So I had that vision. Okay, I was prepared for it. So once I got to the media center, Vito, it was expansive. And unfortunately, the one drawback for me was they stuck me right next to the air conditioner. So there was a cold ass air blowing on me the entire time. And I'm like, dude, it was nice though, because of how hot it got throughout the week. I could go back into the media center, but that wasn't my intention, was to sit there on a computer and just watch, because they had the big screen. You could watch the entire event on the TV. They had all the scores, all the info, all the quotes. You had everything you needed in that media center. But that wasn't my intention. My intention was, I'm going to walk the crap out of this course. And so first day, second day, third day, I walked holes 1 through 9, 10 through 18, got my lay of the land. I walked actually that first day from the clubhouse to the driving range, which is a good 2,000 steps to probably get there. It's a long walk. And so then I realized, wow. But they had opportunities. If you didn't want to walk, you could have taken a shuttle there, a golf cart. You could have just asked, and they would have taken you there. A couple times I did, but I wanted to walk it. And so I got a chance to see some early round practice rounds the first couple of days. The Pro-Am was great. Seeing the celebrities was great. And then the tournament comes. And Vito, once Thursday hit, I was ready. I was ready to work it. I put out as much content as I could. I took as many photos as I thought I could put up on a website, and I had a great time. All in all, I felt like being a one-man show was super difficult because there's interviews and there's live action going on. I felt like probably one more staffer would have been great to acquire.
Are you saying that you might invite me next year?
I put out the word to the staffers. I'm like, I need one more credential to do it right because I covered a lot of ground.
And you have to be a certain height to be allowed in. Hope not.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be an opportunity for you to cover it next year, and I think that it's going to be fun. The entire staff was great. I have no complaints. The only thing that could be improved, in my eyes, you got to figure out a way to get cell coverage in that entire golf course. Now, the media center had great Wi-Fi, no complaints, got all my content out that I wanted to in a timely manner. But once you're on the course, you can't get nothing out. And there were some great things. There were some balls sprayed all over the place that I was near that I could have talked about a little bit faster. But all in all, Vito, I had a great time. It was unbelievable to watch PGA Tour golf in Detroit. Obviously, the first year is to work out the kinks and to see what happened. And then obviously the story of the winner. The last entrant officially entered into the tournament. I mean, a guy that showed up Monday to qualify, didn't qualify, is told, look, maybe there's going to be a couple guys that withdraw, stick around, and he had to wait until Wednesday, the final day, to be entered into the tournament. He was the last guy there. So kind of is symbolic, too, of a podcast covering a golf event, a new media entity like ours that's covering sports on a regular basis. It was great because of the fact I took a lot of photos. I was in the mix. I was watching the event live and up close. Now, like with anything, when you're a first-year media member, you got to have some restrictions. And there were some I agreed with, some I didn't. But I do think that with the coverage that I did compared to others, I believe we were one of the upper echelon media groups that were there covering it in terms of getting access, putting videos, and asking questions. I asked every question I wanted to. One of the highlights of the week was after Gary Woodland missed the cut, he signed autographs, did his media obligation. There was nobody around. I said, Gary, can I just get 1 minute of your time? This is for audio purposes. I'd like to ask you a couple questions. No problem. On the Detroit Sports Podcast was Gary Woodland, and it was well received, and it was very cool to talk to the defending United States Open golf champion, and he was very gracious. All the golfers were really gracious, including Ricky Fowler, Dustin Johnson, Brian Stewart, a local guy. He was the first guy on Monday that I watched, and it was so cool because if you look at my coverage from top to bottom, I tweeted a lot, put a lot of videos out there. I put 1 or 2 articles up daily on the website, but early on, there's not a lot of media that's going to be walking the golf course on a Monday. But I got my bearings around 8 o'clock after finding the media center on Monday, and I go over to the driving range. There's a couple golfers there, including someone I knew, Brian Stewart, a former Oakland University golfer. He's a professional, got a win recently out of the PGA Tour. And so I'm watching him. I'm like, oh, this is good for the first day. I'm actually going to watch his practice round. So the first couple holes, I watch what he's doing to get the lay of the land, holes 1, 2, and 3. So I watch about the first 8 holes of him, and then I kind of go back to the driving range to see a couple others. But then he makes a stretch on 14, 15, 16, and things like that. And I go up to him, and I'm like, he's walking, and it's just me and him. It's me, him, and his caddy. And I walk up to him, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to, he's walking right by me. I'm just going to ask him, like, hey, can you just answer one question for me? What's your mindset like on a day like today? And so Brian Stewart gets the distinction of being the first guy that, the first PGA professional that I asked a question to, and he was gracious. And so I got a Monday piece about mindset out there. And the local guys were great. The media was great. And so everything in terms of how it came together felt like a culmination of all the work I'd done, being that I got the access. I had a plan in place, and I executed. I got content. And I think those that followed us, obviously, we're not the best. We're not the, like, you have to check us out, but we were in the mix. And that's all I wanted was like, look, I want to be able to say I did something that others didn't do. And I did that. I had photos that were great. I had audio that was exclusive. I spoke to the United States Open champion on our platform, was able to post regular updates. I was there early. I did the job. And I think I did it to a certain degree that was impressive to those that were watching. So then the event's done, the Sunday. I walked, a lot. I walked, the first 9 with 2 groups, and then I walked all 18 with the leaders.
So you lost some weight, by the way.
You
shed 3 pounds, you said.
I lost 3 pounds last week.
Is that quantifiable / verifiable?
Yes, verifiable. It's verifiable.
Very good.
I lost weight, ate a lot of food. They took care of us. But the last day, you're walking, and there's big crowds. So obviously I had outside the rope access. So I wasn't able to get inside the ropes because obviously I'm a podcast and it's my first year. I'm hoping that will change next year. That was the only drawback was I had to kind of, really fight my way through the crowds to get really good shots and to get a view because it was packed. So, Nate Lashley, wire-to-wire winner, there was no doubt that final round that unless he had an epic collapse and shot like an 80, he was going to win. He had a big-time lead, 6-7 shot lead going into the final round. No one's going to catch him. So you recognize, okay, he's walking up 18, and there's a huge crowd, so I can't make my way through because it's like 7, 8 deep. But a couple people started to wiggle through, and I got a couple photos on the 18th green. I snuck my way under the rope, and I took a couple photos. I didn't want to, because there's a lot of media there. Every media basically was there, but it was too packed. I don't like that in terms of coverage, and I wanted to maybe also get back to the media area and put up some stuff. So I'm like, you don't feel like you get the vibe of at this ceremony when he wins. There's a ceremony on the 18th green. So that was one of the things I just wasn't a part of. There's so many people. There was his family, all the media gathered. I didn't want to be in that kind of scrum. So I'm kind of walking back. I'm hearing the cheers. And I'm kind of a little bit bummed out because it's the culmination is the trophy ceremony. And you're not there. And you feel a little bit like an outsider. But like in life, when one door closes, another opens. And all of a sudden, I'm walking back. It's just me. I'm walking back and I look in the Porta-Johns, which is right behind the 18th hole, and there's Nick Faldo. And I'm like, holy cow.
Wait, time out. You looked into the porta potty and he was in there? You said, Nick, I know you're taking a dump right now, but can I talk to you really quick?
No, Vito.
And you went in there and interviewed him?
The Porta-Johns are set up like RV, or set up like a little area where you could say, okay, this is where you go to the restroom. So I'm walking by, and he's walking up into it, going into it, and I see his lady friend, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Nick Faldo going into the Porta-John. So I looked at his lady friend, and I say, is that Mr. Faldo? And she goes, yeah. And I said, I'm a big fan. Is there an opportunity when he's done, potentially, for him to talk to me?
When he's done taking that dump.
Yeah, when he's done.
Can I talk to him?
Exactly. So I'm like, holy cow, I'm just going to ask. So I go through to interview Nick Faldo through his lady friend. And it's the best way to do it because I'm not going to go through the channels to ask PR and all that. It's the end of the day.
It wouldn't have happened, too.
It wouldn't have happened. Yeah, it wouldn't have happened. So he comes out. She goes up to him and goes, Detroit Sports Podcast is here. They want just a minute or two of your time. They're big fans. He's like, no problem. So we come, and right away, I'm like, he says yes, and my heart starts pounding. I'm excited.
I would have been nervous, too.
I was excited. So right away, he stands there, and I start taking the photo. He looks, he goes, this is probably not the best view. You don't want the Porta-John in the background. So we laugh. We start laughing together. I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a little
Probably
excited.
helped you out, too, right, to ease the nerves?
Yeah.
When he said that, you started laughing with them.
We both started laughing, and I reach out my hand, and he gives me a fist bump instead of shaking my hand.
He might not have washed his hands still in that porta potty.
Exactly. So I'm a little nervous that little exchange was awkward, but then we get to the position where I'm at, which is like maybe 5 steps to the right of the Porta-Johns, and you could hear in the video the award ceremony going on. And as it's going on, I'm thinking, yes, finally, where one door closed, I wasn't part of the ceremony. I'm speaking exclusively to Nick Faldo, major winner, the announcer of the week, a guy that's super famous in the world of golf. And I'm talking to him for 2 minutes, and he was so nice. He gave 2 long answers. He talked about he stayed at the Shinola Hotel, and it was a great experience, and it was surreal. So when I'm done, I'm like, all right, I got a lot of access. I asked all the golfers questions. I wasn't afraid. At the time, there was a kid that's the longest hitter on tour named Cameron Champ. He had a great round, shot a 28 on the front 9. I got in there, asked him a question. Dustin Johnson, Ricky Fowler. I asked the local guys questions. I covered the event in the manner in which I could do it. Now, there are other organizations that have producers and editors and cameramen and a big expansive staff that can put out a lot of content. But for what I was able to do, being a one-man person, I think a lot of people got a lot of what was going on from the event. And it just felt like, for me, a culmination of what I had done in terms of covering sports up until then. I wasn't scared. I got all the access I wanted. I was able to ask as many questions as I needed to. I wasn't scared. From the time of the beginning, opening day practice rounds, till the end, when the champion was crowned, he comes into the media center. I ask him a question. I covered it to the ability that I could, and I loved every minute of it. It was so awesome. I hope you guys that took in the coverage at Detroit Podcast said, okay, this is a guy that was hardworking. He didn't slack. He didn't take advantage and just show up once and then leave. No, I wanted the feel of like, hey, this is just an average fan, a regular guy going in there, putting out content. And I think from all the clicks and the views and everything like that, and even Sir Nick Faldo retweeted the Detroit Sports Podcast. If you had told me that Sir Nick Faldo would have a post with our name on it, to his 300,000 followers, I would say, get the hell out of here. If you told me a major winner, the latest major winner, Gary Woodland, would spend 2 minutes with me, I'd say, get the hell out of here. That was not in the preparation. It was just cover the event, go and tell people what's going on. But I felt like after day one, I was going balls to the wall. And that's my attitude. I just go balls to the wall. I have to over-deliver because I'm not the free press. I'm not the news. I don't have interns walking behind me trying to get coverage. And so that's why I asked for next year. I said, well, look, I probably just need one more person.
Yeah, bring your intern, unpaid
Vito.
Intern Vito, Jerome Churko to help you out.
Exactly. Bring an intern. And so that way, one person on the course, one person getting the interviews, that's all we need. We can deliver great coverage. And that's what I think I did was wore my hat every single day. And everyone's like, Detroit Sports Podcast, what's that about? Who are you shooting for? Because I took a big lens. And so, man, Vito, I talked 20 minutes on this. But Vito, at the end of the day, I hope that you and anybody watching realized, look, I'm just a regular guy that loves sports and I love competition. And I do love going out there and covering and bringing people that peek into what we do, at least a glimpse of what I'm seeing. And if that's all you took away, if you went elsewhere to see the coverage, I don't blame you, no problem at all. But I hope that if you did peek into what we did, you realized, wow, a guy that's not a trained journalist went out there and asked the great questions, asked questions that were relevant, and got responses and brought you into the action. And that's all I wanted to do was go balls to the wall. And then, like I said, the culmination of it was, the story I can tell was, I wasn't able to get on the green for the celebration, but it provided for the greatest moment that I've had interviewing somebody was a major winner, a big-time elite get in terms of Nick Faldo gave me 2 minutes of his time. And that's how I wanted it. Where one door closes, another opens, and that's how you got to treat it. If you don't get the interview, fine, get the next one. If you are walking the course and you miss someone, get the next guy up. Ask. Don't be scared. The worst they're going to do is tell you no. Just understand the rules and make sure you don't basically take video of the event. That's all you really can't do.
Nothing live streaming.
Nothing live streaming.
Yeah.
Don't take video of the events going on. That's about only the rule, and stay outside the ropes. Don't try and cheat the system. So the rules are fair. It's just that, like I said, I don't like the feeling of feeling like an outsider where I see interns of the paper get to have access, and I don't, and I put in the good work.
You're a 40-year-old effing man.
I'm a man.
You're a man. You're 40.
Do you think I did a good job? Do you looked at it and said, wow, this guy's doing stuff? Like when you saw, what'd you think when you first saw, like, damn, he put out an interview with Nick Faldo?
Very solid. Great way to end the tournament. But did you get the chance to ask Ricky Fowler what adult film is the latest one that he's been in? Because I looked at that stash. I saw that stash on Ricky Fowler. Do you get my point here? You didn't get the chance to ask him what's the latest adult film that he's been in? Because, I mean, it looks like he's been doing some of those films. Yeah. Okay, I'll just say that.
That was one of the rare times where I missed him coming off of the completion of his round because I was walking the course.
Everybody wanted to talk to him, right? Everybody clamored to talk to him because he's represented by Rocket Mortgage. Everybody wanted to talk to him. And really, he was a spokesperson for Rocket Mortgage.
Exactly.
I don't think it was planned to be that way, but he knew it coming into it. Everybody's going to talk to me about the tournament. How's it been? And everybody spoke glowingly about this tournament at Detroit Golf Club in Detroit. And what a great golf course, right? Even for me, when I went there for that press conference just to check it out. Beautiful. Maybe I wasn't dressed beautifully and in the right attire. Okay, that's a joke for another day. But next year, I'll be there as your unpaid intern.
Yeah, you'll be there. No, I'll take Vito. Come on, I'll take care of you.
Unpaid staff member.
I take care of you, Vito.
Paid
I'll take care of you.
Staff member, right? Let's get to that.
We'll try
for
it.
next year. You and I there covering it. And you know what? We can split it up like you said.
Yeah.
I can be in the media tent, and then I can go on the golf course, check that out too. We can shift duties as time goes on as well. I mean, it's a long tournament. 4 days of it too.
Exactly. And I just think that we put ourselves in the mix. I got a chance to talk to a couple people, obviously work the program there and get guests for the podcast. So it was great. Hopefully couple of those guests will come in studio and share their stories and things like that. But that's just what I wanted to do, was just to feel like I was in the mix in terms of those that were maybe alternate media, non-traditional, whatever you want to call it. I think I did a good job and I competed well. And that's all I want to do, is just bring the people to the action and over-deliver. Like, this is what I can do. And it just felt like, for me, like I said, to get Nick Faldo that way, where he's just in the back there.
Just hanging out there, coming out of a porta potty. Best way to get a guy coming out of a porta potty.
Truly, I was a little bummed out. I'm like, man, I just wish I could have just gotten to the front or maybe finagled my way in. But the PR guys are there. You don't want to cause waves.
But you know what? Honestly, what's a bigger name? Nate Lashley or Nick Faldo?
Who
is Sir Nick Faldo? If you're a sir of anything, okay, that's a bigger name than anybody else there, pretty much.
Vito, I truly believe everything happens for a reason. I was meant to feel that way. I was meant to feel like, okay, next year there's more for me. And then all of a sudden I'm like, dude, just ask. What are you going to do? And I didn't even ask PR. I asked his lady friend. I'm like, look, is that Nick Faldo? I'm a fan.
Lady friend, girlfriend, wife.
And you know what?
Just there.
Okay,
what do you think? Do we know the relationship?
It was his, I don't know exactly the terms, but it was a significant partner for Nick Faldo.
Got ya.
I will say this. I'll give you guys a tip if you're listening, okay? Anybody that you approach, whether you are or not, tell them you're a fan. That's it. Tell them I like
Make
your
it
work.
Sound good?
Yeah, if someone walked up to me.
But you don't want to shill for anybody. You're a media member there, John Macaron, on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Come on now.
Three words. You don't say, oh my God, I love you. I can't believe I didn't recap the Masters with him.
You don't want to fanboy over the guy. You don't want to do that either.
No.
But you didn't. You just said, hey, I'm a big fan, you said to him.
I'm a big fan. I respect your work. I'm a big fan. I watch your TV show. I'm a big fan. I read your paper every day. And whether you do or don't.
He has a paper?
No, I'm talking about another media member.
Oh, okay. Let's say.
I spoke to that writes. I said that too.
Now, let me ask you the honest truth. Now, I know you're legitimately a fan of Nick Faldo.
Yes.
Some of the guys that you met, did you maybe say you were a big fan of them? Maybe just to talk to them for a little bit? Be honest. You don't have to name. We're not going to name names, but maybe a few individuals that you talked to.
No. Everybody that I met that I went up to, I was a fan of.
Okay.
I've read their work. So.
Okay.
Now, have I done it in the past where I just said that? Of course.
I know you have.
Of course.
Come on, BS artist. Okay, you are, and I try to be what you are. Trying to replicate your BS artistry. Anyways.
But Vito, it does open the door where at least you say, hey, I know who you are. I don't want to say, hey, I'm a big fan, and then you never read their work before.
Well, or you don't know the name. Big fan. What's your name?
Yeah, exactly.
No, you don't want to do that either. Yeah, you got to play it cool, right? You got to read the room or read the course. You read the course perfectly. Seriously, big props to you. I think this is the best work ever done by the DSP network over a collective period of time, like over multiple days.
Yes.
We've done great work.
Yeah.
I have as well, right?
Yeah.
In like a day or 2 days worth of something, like the NCAA tournament. I think you and I we hit a home run with that coverage, right? But this was even better because it was over the course of a week, because I don't think people truly realize you were there from Monday on, right? Every single day. For at least a little bit, every single day. And for a lot of the days, you were there for the whole entire day.
Start to finish. I was there. I rocked it.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was
Now,
good.
I don't know what you were doing then for work. I mean, the other stuff you're trying to make money.
16,
to put some food on the table for your wife and kids at home, but
they're 16-hour days. All you got to do is spend 8 hours a day there. So
8 and 8.
8 and 8.
So 16-hour work days, really, for you. Monday through Sunday.
I got up at 5 a.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. And then, like I said, I covered as much as I could. Wednesday and Saturday were the lightest days. And everything from top to bottom, I just wanted to be there. Detroit Golf Club was great. Now, before I wrap up, the last minute, they do got to change the course. They got to make it a little bit harder.
Too easy, right?
Too easy.
Yeah.
So
how do you make it tougher? Like, I wouldn't even know.
Nick Faldo said it. Create bunkers around some of the holes where if you make a mistake, you're in a bunker. Make 2 of the par 5s a par 4. And make it, the par was 72, make it par 70. If you make it par 70, you naturally bring down the scores to 16 to 19 under, and then I think you have a great tournament.
Well, then it looks better.
Yes.
You want a tough course for a PGA Tour event, right?
Yes.
I don't even know a ton about golf, but don't you want it tough?
Yes.
To some degree. It seems like it was way too easy.
Yes.
But then let me ask you this. Is this verifiable? You were there covering it. I checked in on most of the stuff from you. But anyways, Bubba Watson, Dustin Johnson were there. They missed the cuts, right? And they both missed the cut. How does that happen? And I'm trying to think. Easy course, PGA Tour dudes that are really good. How'd they miss the cut?
Okay, here's the reason why. When you do make a mistake on the green, it's going to be hard. But the reason why it's forgiving is that the course is fairly straight and flat. So what these guys would do is bomb 320-yard drive straight, then they'd hit a 100-yard approach, and then all they had to do was get the putt up and down for par. So a lot of these guys, like Dustin Johnson, would make mistakes and spray the ball all over the place. Look, golf is a tough game.
It is,
in that
isn't it?
You can try your absolute best, but if you're swinging out of your shoes trying to hit 300 yards in your drive and you're not sharp, then you will miss the fairway and then you'll be punished. And so what happened was the cut was -5, which is unheard of in golf. Very rare for a cut line to be that high. And so guys like Bubba Watson, Dustin Johnson, obviously, when in terms of their play, they just didn't drive the ball and they weren't as accurate with their irons. But a lot of the field was, and to play that golf course well, you got to drive at 300 and you got to have great accuracy on your irons and putting. So I think it's a good test of golf. Many more professional golfers will come to this. It will grow. I think it's going to get big, and I think it's going to be something awesome for the city every year. But they just got to tweak it a little bit. 2 cons for me. You got to figure out the internet, better cell tower service for all of the fans and for the media on the course, and then you got to make the course just a little bit tougher. A little bit, not a lot. Just a little bit, and I think you got yourself a winning tournament, winning combination. So I hope more and more golfers come to it. And Vito, I spent 25 minutes on this. That's how much I loved it. I loved it, Vito. I loved it. It was a combination of being there, covering sports, being around competitive, rich guys, and then seeing a new guy get money is awesome. Like I said, Vito, this guy was clinging to life outside the top 100, and he had to, like I said, qualify. And for the last place guy, the odds-on longest shot to win the tournament, wins it in Detroit. For a podcast to cover it start to finish, symbiotic, baby. And for me to be there, I think I did a good job, and I can always do better, and that's the name of the game. So I enjoyed it. Thanks, everybody, for checking out the coverage. Now, one final topic. I think everybody in Detroit's talking about it now, in that a longtime investigative reporter, Kevin Dietz, WDIV, been there 26 years. All right? It was announced on Monday that he no longer was part of WDIV, and it was like sudden. Everyone was like, what? What's going on this last Monday? Well, on Tuesday, he came out and put out a post and discussed the fact that at a conference, a journalism conference in Houston, he was among a group of people, and he told basically a joke, a racial joke that was kind of laughed at the time because of the fact that the purpose of the convention was to promote diversity in journalism and things like that. And so there was an African-American in the photo, and Kevin makes a joke and says, we're probably going to have to crop you out of the photo. And it was a joke. It was lighthearted. The member that heard it joked, and they're friends, and there was nothing to it. But once others started to sprinkle their point of view, it got back to WDIV. It was actually water cooler talk among the station. So, talk speaks to what's going on at WDIV. There's too much room to talk. But it got back to management, and I guess WDIV has a zero tolerance policy regarding that kind of stuff, and he was broomed out. And others have said, wait a minute, if the guy that heard it, if the person that heard this comment doesn't care.
Well, yeah, if he's not offended.
They're friends, and nothing goes on. This escalates because of rumors and talks. It's unheard of that this would happen. That's why zero tolerance policies, in my mind, are negative and actually hurts the cause, because when actual racial stuff happens, people will go, look, everyone's so sensitive and stuff like that. This is why this stuff is wrong. Kevin Dietz, in my opinion, was let go in the wrongest sense. And especially, look, okay, a guy puts in 26 years in your organization. He's a respected member of your team. You don't like what he did. You don't got to fire him. Suspend him for 2 weeks.
Well, then after 26 years, he's not a racist. Yeah. He said this jokingly.
Yeah, it's not that serious. Joke around. Me and you joke around. I've made short jokes to you. You've made fat jokes to me.
Obviously, look at Twitter. Just the other day, Nolan Bianchi liked that. I love that guy, man. Thank you for liking that, Nolan, if you're listening to this. Made me feel good about that. But anyways, seriously, you know what? You can joke with each other. Now, the no tolerance thing, I think when stations, newspapers, outlets, entities make that a policy, no tolerance, I think it's for the PR side of things. It's a PR move on their behalf to look good, Doc. Don't you think that, and don't you have to consider that, especially nowadays, the PR side of things even more? Which is why they do it. Now, I know your point, because now anything can get you fired, it seems like. And that's when these companies and outlets such as WDIV get called out for being overly sensitive.
Yes, it's wrong.
So then it looks bad for them. But don't they have to have the no tolerance policy at the same time in place because of the fact of the PR side of things? That's all I'm saying in WDIV's defense.
No, this is why zero tolerance is absolutely wrong.
Well, there's two sides to it. Like I said, that's the contrarian side. What I just brought up, I think, is the contrarian side, which is a valid side to the argument here, too.
I think you have policies. Obviously, no racial insensitive comments, period. But
if you know it's not insensitive,
it's not.
Forget about it. Don't fire the guy.
This does not apply to that.
It's not applicable to this situation here in so many words.
It's a joke. It's a joke that the guy laughed at. When you're with your friends, you're sometimes socially nervous. Like I said, I was with Nick Faldo. I put out my hand for a handshake. He gave me a fist bump because of the fact that I was nervous. You're sometimes in social situations. There's some awkward silence. You say stupid stuff. Everyone cracks jokes. I mean, look, people call me big guy. You know, some of the ushers, when I walked by, would say, hey, big guy, you got to hold up a second. You know what I mean? And my name is prominently featured. I don't care. I laugh.
By the way, big guy.
Big guy. Hey, big guy.
In what way?
Well, you know.
Are they making fun of your width?
Yeah.
Not your height. I know that's not your height.
Yeah,
we're talking about
height.
there, but.
My weight. So if you are that sensitive about stuff, I feel bad for you. Because, look, people say things to me. They roll off my chest. Ha ha, we move on. I say, hey, Vito, you know, stand up. Come on, get in the shot. We joke around. Everyone does
Because we
that.
can.
We can.
We get it. We're lighthearted. And there should be a lighthearted nature
now,
to, like, every situation between
look,
people, right?
Exactly. When you don't have this zero tolerance, if, for example, this joke was made and the recipient was not happy, you go to the office. Look, he was a little bit, but you have a meeting. You say, look, Kevin, that's not the talk you want to have. Here's a couple of days off. Just think about it. Have some training. Come back. That's it. You've lost now a talented individual. That's what I'm saying is that you have a policy. Obviously, you got to have a policy, Vito. You can't sexually harass, people that come in here as guests. You can't use racially insensitive comments. You can't blast the sponsors. But within that, if something happens and you say something that I'm not exactly thrilled with, here's what the policy will be here. Vito, that's Tuesday. You came in. We had this guest in here, and you kind of were a little bit insensitive. Look, we can't do that. It's not good. Take a week off. Think about what you did. Tell me why. Tell me what you're going to do in the future. That's the first warning. That's it. If you do it again, we're going to have a problem. That's what life should be. You have to have some consideration for the guy and for what the story is. You know, Terry Foster, local media member, he said, look, bring the guy back. It's a wrongful dismissal. This is wrongful.
And he said his offense was so minor.
It's so minor. Everybody's so upset and easily offended that when somebody's not offended, people are like, they should take action. And why? Why is that? Because we're a litigious society, and WDFN and WDIV has to save face over this. And this is what happened. This is the problem. People around the water cooler blew this up. You know, what was said? How was it like, oh my God, did you hear Kevin's joke? Oh my God, it's so offensive. Oh my God.
Did you hear him joke and not mean anything by it?
Oh my God.
Seriously.
Who would
right?
tell that joke? Oh my God. You know, boys will be boys. People are not perfect.
And forget about that, the boys being boys. It's just
No
the
one's
pure fact.
perfect.
The pure fact. Nobody's perfect. But also, this guy isn't a racist. If he's been there 26 years, has never even crossed or come close to crossing the line before with anything racial oriented, okay? No racial slurs, anything close to that, and racial insensitivity in the past. If there has been none of that in the past from him, uttered by him, why would there be such a big thing made about this one situation, which he meant in a joking manner? So it wasn't racially insensitive, okay? So this guy, I don't think even needed sensitivity training. Like, you brought that up as something maybe to give to the guy as like a warning and as a thing for him to take a leave of absence and to do over that week-long leave of absence. I don't think maybe that was even necessary. Maybe just bringing him into the office for a really quick chat that could have taken like 5 minutes just to say, hey, maybe, Kevin, consider not saying this in the future just because of all the fire that we've taken now, even though we know you didn't mean this, but just think before you say something like that in the future. I mean, but honestly, like you said, the guy he said it to wasn't even offended, supposedly. So this speaks volumes about the Twitter culture we live amongst and how this stuff spreads like wildfire on social media. And then it incriminates somebody in a station when really there was nobody to incriminate, nothing to incriminate Kevin Dietz over. So this was a situation that was totally blown out of proportion. And now he's a credible journalist that, guess what? Fox 2 is probably clamoring for.
Yeah.
Channel 7, WXYZ is probably clamoring for. He's going to land somewhere else. And guess what? Channel 4 subsequently is losing a very valuable investigative journalist.
Wrong, all the way around. That's what we have to realize. Take it case by case. That's all you got to do. You can have pen, you can have standards, you can have policies, follow them. But when you hear a story and this comes to the table, and that's the case, is that, the person that the joke was intended for didn't get upset, so be it. Move on.
Well, and I'll say this really quick to end this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres. I'm a little person. I hear some stuff that's really bad, okay? And, I'll just say it. Being called a midget is something I don't like, okay? I don't. But I kind of let it roll off. And really, unless it's that, and unless it's repeated by that person, it's not really going to get to me and bother me, and I would never report it. Right. Now, I've got some tough skin, too, at this point, at 26 years young, not years old. But if you just call me a little person or say, why are you so short, like a little kid coming up to me, I'm not going to report that and say that kid, who's like 6 or 7 years old, is so insensitive. It's not about that all the times.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to have some thick skin as well at times.
No doubt about it. For Vito Churko, I am the Doc. Again, we wish everybody, we hope that you had a great 4th of July. Follow Vito on Twitter at Vito Jerome. Really a fine young sports broadcaster, a great podcaster, a great writer. We're lucky to have him. Follow him on Twitter at Vito Jerome, our favorite little person in the media. You can follow...
Only little person in the media, so I guess that's why I get that note as well, or that label. But anyways.
Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. If you agree or disagree with anything that we have said, please, if there was some way we could have done better coverage at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, if there's something else you want us to cover, feel free. We are the most engaged Twitter page. And for those that laughed at our joke that got it earlier this week, on the Two Bad Hombres Twitter page, I think you caught it and liked it. I think it's very funny. One in which maybe one day a professional athlete of that stature will message out.
And that was courtesy of the Doc. Props to you on that. And really quick, the only little person at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network as well. Wow, big distinction here. Anyways, with that being said, adios.